Here's a poem by Fred Lamont. He writes these beautiful poems. They're like astonishment medicine. The world is quite capable of existing without you. See this. Just for a moment, step back and repose in a Sabbath of pure awareness. The infinite cosmos happens without your attempt to improve it. And you too are infinite and whole and wonderful without any effort to improve yourself. Drop the world even for the duration of a breath, for the space between heartbeats, and let your attention rest at home. A subtle, ineffable sound arises from the empty bell that was ringing in your solar plexus prior to creation, the unstruck music that soothes and heals before any wound was made. In this humble Sabbath from all entanglement, you discover that you are the radiance of being, the fragrance of divine light, already containing in your seed the fruit of every right action. Through one blessed moment of boundlessness, non-doing, you transform the cosmos into what is. This is the real revolution. Welcome to the Institute for Advanced Astonishment. Today we have right there Daniel Schmidt. Hello, Dan.
Hello there.
Very excited for our talk today. And before we dive into Samadhi and much more, I just wanted to give you a tiny intro about what the Institute's about. And I know you're totally on board for it. We're about finding the most potent tools to awaken to your true nature, to a mystical experience, to realize the advanced astonishment state, to realize our true quantum self, to realize you're not some limited, finite, dying thing. You are actually immortal consciousness lost in a dream of separation, and it's time to wake up and come home. And all we really care about here is what really, really works. So in Dan, in astonishment, you have that M, and we try to stretch the M into like 3 M's. So there's matter or materialism and seeing through that dream of solidity and separation. And then there's the medicine, like DMT or MDMA or mushrooms that show us the destination. Even for one night, they show that advanced astonishment state. And then once you see this state or you experience the frequency, the last M would be mind training, which maybe permanently raises your frequency, making that advanced astonishment state your baseline experience. So we're all about and only about the best tools that we can load up in our astonishment toolbox, help others struggling on the path. So let's meet you, Dan. I'm just going to read a little bit about you. Daniel is the creator of the award-winning film Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds, as well as the ongoing Samadhi film series, which blew my doors off. Daniel's intention is to convey the one perennial teaching that is inherent within all of the spiritual traditions. Daniel created the Samadhi Center in Ontario, Canada, and the Awaken the World initiative as an outer reflection of his inner world. And his approach combines self-inquiry with traditional forms of meditation so that participants have the opportunity to realize at the same time their transcendent nature and to purify themselves of conditioned patterns so that the human vessel becomes permeable to our true nature. Daniel emphasizes that Samadhi can be experienced not merely as a temporary state, but as a stage of development. The Pathless path, or as James Plath, the Pathless path, or the Plath's path, Plath, I don't know, is to realize an ever-deepening development process within the self-structure and to simultaneously realize the emptiness of the self-structure And when these are realized as one, it is samadhi. Beautiful, Dan. Right before I asked Chat GPT, what is samadhi? And I just have to give it to you. I'm sure you looked already. Samadhi is a state of deep concentration and meditation in which the individual experiences a sense of oneness with the universe, and a complete absorption in the present moment is a state of consciousness that is achieved through intense focus and mindfulness, and is often described as a state of bliss, peace, and transcendence. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, samadhi is considered a key step in the path towards enlightenment and spiritual liberation. Do you like that? Or is that how did Chat GPT do?
I think it's yeah, I think it's a good dictionary definition for sure, but I find it ironic that getting a definition from a robot, and it's I love that these robotic AI things now are like when I go to a website, they're asking me if I'm a robot. I get the little message saying, "Are you a robot?" And you click it. So yeah, it's such an upside down world.
Weird stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Will you address
yeah,
that in Samadhi 4, which you're working on now?
yeah. I mean, all of these, I think what you just read, the mind that is looking for some sort of a little rote answer, it's none of that is satisfying. Like what samadhi for, and what my life is about now is very, very similar to what you described. Your mission is with this podcast and all of this. To me, it's about direct experience. How do I enter into the mystery directly? And what excites me is the tools that will, I use the phrase creating conditions of no escape. So whether that's yeah, the retreat format that we use is really very rigorous. So the mind at a certain point will drop off, or you mentioned entheogens or DMT.
Yes.
Once you take that, there's no turning back.
Right.
That's conditions of no escape as well. So yeah, and for me, there's sort of two dimensions on like the pathless path, like with Samadhi 4 that I'm exploring. So there's, the experience, that we can have, like this non-dual experience, which is this ever unfolding mystery. But then there's something that, all of the experiences are happening within the phenomenal realm. But there's the one who has that experience, the awareness of that experience, and that recognition of who we are, which is revealed through self-inquiry or through awakening, is the two are entangled. Like the
Yes.
more we wake up, the deeper our human experience goes into the non-dual. So there's this sort of dance, so
Yes.
who we are is, there's no path to who we are, this perfect awareness, but yet there is a path that is unfolding as well.
And I love you said, what did you call it about escape? The
Yeah, conditions of no escape.
and
Yeah, yeah.
as you know, my teacher was my original. I wrote a book called The Skeptic's Apprentice, and I studied with James Randi, who was the foremost escape artist in the world. But he had a poster he gave me when I was 12 years old, maybe 14, and he signed it. It was so beautiful, and it said, "The man no jail could hold," but yet he could not see.
Mhm.
He couldn't escape duality at all. He
Mhm.
didn't see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And it's such a fundamental paradox that when we awaken, we realize the I that we were identified with, is this character, and that actually we were never in prison to begin
Right.
with. Like
That's
awareness
great.
was never in prison. That's the insanity of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You
seeing
realize,
seeing that's
like like Rumi would say, you realize the door, the key is in your hand already, and then you could even go to the door and the door is open. I mean, these are just stages of it. Or
Yeah.
you walk past the warden's office and there's no one there, and you could just walk right out because you were never in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it, and the thing, like in the self-inquiry retreats that we do, like they're sort of based on, I don't know if you're familiar with the Charles Berner
No, I
dyad
know Maharshi
method.
was big on self-inquiry. I don't know Charles Byrne.
Yeah, so Charles Berner, so it's doing self-inquiry with a partner, basically. You keep switching partners.
Wow.
But this and it's an incredible way. It's the best way I've found to keep someone continuously in presence for a long period of
Oh,
time.
that's
Because
great.
if you're just meditating, you can zone out, but if
Mhm.
you're engaged with this partner, constantly inquiring, you're on the hook.
It's
You've
like
got this
that stick.
person.
It's like that stick on the back when you fall asleep during zazen. If you have a
Yeah,
partner,
yeah,
it
the
keeps you
Zen
on your
stick.
toes. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
eye
So
gazing involved? Because we had Tim Friedman
yeah,
and talked about eye
yeah. So
gazing.
So the way it works is, yeah, you're looking into a partner's eyes, and one is just a witness, and you keep flipping back and forth. But the witness will say, "Tell me who you are," and they're
Great.
looking deeply into your eyes, and then you just intend, this is the mysterious part. So there's an intention to directly experience the truth
Yes.
are. And then whatever comes up as a result of that inquiry, it's like I use different words like, we connect to our I amness, or we
Yes.
we feel beingness, or whatever it is that, but then the false I will reveal itself
Ah,
then, so whatever comes up in the mind and body, will present itself, and it could be blocks, or old conditioning,
right.
traumas, all kinds of stuff come, the samskaras start to come up very quickly in this process. And then we just convey that to the partner. And this is how we clear the samskaras, because they're all they were, what originally was incomplete experiences.
Right.
So it's an opportunity to just let whatever emotion or trapped energy just come up. Sometimes people will make sounds, or they'll, eventually the mind gets out of the way in this process. It gets crazy. It gets completely crazy what comes out of people, and it's a fast clearing process.
It almost
Um,
sounds like a medicine trip without the medicine, that this is the medicine.
yeah, it gets psychedelic. Like people,
Yeah.
when the energy becomes freed, the third eye opens, people's faces start changing, because
Ah,
you're staring at someone, continuously. So this kind of phenomena unfold. People have mystical experiences in that, and then at a certain point, the mind eventually comes to a point where a lot has been cleared. Usually, it's there. So there's an interesting thing with the mind, because when somebody says, "Tell me who you are," there's this intention to know who we are, but then the mind still believes that a lot of people, they believe that there's an answer to this question, right? So the mind is still trying to answer, and the further we go with it, eventually the mind is like, people get really honest. They're
oh,
like,
that's great.
I really don't know who I am. Like, I really don't know, and they're confused. And we do this from early morning till like 11 at night. So they're by the end of the day, they're just done. They're exhausted, and the mind's defenses are really down. And
Great.
this is like I call it like the cloud of unknown, where
Ah,
we enter the space where we're lost. We
right.
get lost in order to be found. And it's in, so these are the conditions. We can't make the awakening happen, but this is the perfect condition for that direct experience of our true nature. So
Do they
so
stay
this
with the same partner throughout the whole? With Tim, they
No,
said he switched them around.
it's switching every
Ah,
40. So each dyad, you go through a sharing process, and then when you're complete, you just say thank you, and then you switch. You keep
it's great.
switching back and forth, and then there's 40-minute period. So every 40 minutes, you're with a new partner, and it's amazing having different partners will bring forth different things as
Yes,
well. So.
beautiful.
Yeah, so it's a really amazing technique. So Charles Berner was the guy who discovered it in the 70s or actually late 60s, and it's been really developed. And they've found that about 30% of people will have what I would say is a full kensho of these
Wow.
things, which is
By nighttime.
it's incredible.
Wow.
Well, it goes, it's 3 days,
Oh,
three
three
days.
days.
So
Oh, that's great.
yeah, so at some point during the retreat, we also have longer retreats. We have 9 or 10 day retreats as well, which incorporate meditation, entheogens.
Oh,
My partner she's an iboga provider, so we do iboga microdosing, 5-MeO DMT. It's a complete dismantling, but we do the self-inquiry during those retreats as well.
this sounds like
And it's just
the ego's nightmare. That's
yeah,
the ego's
yeah.
nightmare
It
to go there.
Yeah, it is. It is. People, if people knew, if the ego knew what it was signing up for, it would never come. But it's amazing, and it blows me away actually. I even on my website it says come to the Samadhi Center to die before you die,
Oh,
and
I love
and
that.
everybody was like, no, that's terrible
No,
marketing.
no,
That's not
no.
good. No, you're not going to get anybody. But somehow there's a resonance there, and
Uh,
even though it's yeah, even though the ego really isn't the one making someone
right.
come, yeah, there's something happening. So they've become really quite popular retreats.
I
And
like you say there's something happening and just leave it there.
yeah.
What is that mystery, right? That grace or whatever you want to call it.
It is such a mystery. Like, when especially by the end of the retreat, there's so much synchronicity,
Oh,
and so it's such a poetic sort of convergence. It's like the group always has this cohesion at a certain point, and it's like every member of the group just was meant to be there, all influencing each other's journeys, and it's like, it is like one organism sort of going through
right.
this awakening process.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful because I think of my own journey and it was mainly silent darkness. I think you were too. I'm not sure. Like a lot of going to the desert, shutting the door, shutting the light, and just totally closing out the world and going within. And then you always hear Ram Dass say, "We're all walking each other home," and it's nice that everybody together, are the coming together loosens this energy, this con- contracted energy or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
for me, it's really like, yeah, like the darkness retreats, and the kind of inward solo journey. I had one of those flotation tanks I used to sleep
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Actually, I'd be just
You slept.
for a long time. It was yeah, just more of an inner journey,
Yeah.
but. But now I really feel like there is a power, like doing these sort of group things and dyads with other people. I think it's an amazing bridge between kind of
Yes.
the solo inner journey, because we want to be able to communicate with others. We want to have
Right.
a complete life experience. So it's great. It's just a great way, to be able to inquire and to be ourselves with other people, and we get to practice that in these different ways. So
And I
it's
think I was very into sleight of hand, so I had this single point and focus on it's like playing an instrument, you're so into your art. So when my teacher said go within, that's all I did, like you with the flotation tank. But most people maybe aren't built that way to totally be single-minded and or single-pointed. So to have a partner and then a group of people all together in a whole community there, a small community, helping each other, I think that it's like going over you need that little boost to get over. And I think that not everybody's built to go to the monastery or the desert, I don't think,
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of these more traditional ways, like meditation in the monastery or
Right.
going to the cave, yeah, it is like it's a long, it can be a very long, arduous process, taking years or decades. Like people, there's so many people come to the center who've been in these different meditation traditions doing meditation for decades, like
Yes.
Vipassana or some of the, transcendental meditation, these different things. And, it's amazing. They've done a lot of deep rewiring work. And, usually those people will have a good sense of consciousness in the somatic field, which is important. But quite often they haven't had any kind of an awakening. And
Right.
in 3 days, with the right conditions, it's possible to make it much more likely to happen. And
I like the
so
three day, I won't go into it, but the 3 days reminds me of something in Christianity that
yeah,
is
yeah,
perfect.
wasn't that after the crucifixion? It was
Yeah,
like 3 days in the cave
right.
or
It's just
whatever.
a perfect
Yeah,
number,
yeah,
3 days.
yeah,
And
yeah.
do you find that talking to the students after they are able to maintain it, do you have any tools to lock, put a crowbar in this and keep the door open?
Yeah, so that rewiring process that we do, like from traditional meditation, and that awareness of the somatic field and all of that, the more we're tuned into that, like the more we've sort of purified the vessel, I think the more we'll stay awake.
Right.
So that's why, like, the pathless path that I talk about is,
Yeah.
it's not just, going directly for awakening, but it's also that ongoing purification of the vessel. And at the longer retreats, we one of the reasons we incorporate iboga is, it puts you in the optimal state for neuroplasticity, and that the nadi plasticity and rewiring of energy pathways and all of that. So,
Can you,
um, so
what does, can you spell that word? Is it IB, Iboga, like that?
yeah,
That
iboga.
one I don't know.
Yeah, it's Iboga. So iboga is, it's a root that comes from Africa. It's one of the, probably one of the oldest entheogens in terms
Wow,
of its traditional use. It's considered a national treasure in Gabon and part of
that's
their
great.
their spirituality. But it goes back thousands of years to the pygmies using it in the jungle. And yeah, it's very unique in the entheogen world. It's when it can be done in a flood dose or a microdose. We're just microdosing at the retreats. But the what I would say, and I mean, it's a true mystery. It's one of those, like mushrooms or these different things. Like, who, it's like plugging us into a higher intelligence, but it seems to have a very particular agenda, which is to sort of purify the self structure, purify the samskaras, the same way we do in meditation. So it'll start to detox you and do whatever it takes to kind of get the inner mechanism, the spiritual mechanism online. So the energy flowing up the chakras, the third eye opening, and anything that needs to be cleared, or stuff
Right.
from childhood, whatever it is, it works on so many levels. So it seems to have this sort of almost like a dharma mission
Yes.
to awaken you, and so it's perfect for meditation. It's the only thing that I've found that sort of integrates really, really well into a meditation retreat, because people, if people are microdosing, even beginners who haven't got much meditation experience, they can sit for
Wow.
hours with iboga. The default mode network of the mind is goes quieter, so these deeper levels can come up and be purified. So it's very, it just sort of synergizes what we're already doing in
Yes.
meditation,
I
which
love that you're combining
um,
everything. So many teachers don't. I, you have to help me here. Why? Why don't some of the bigger teachers? Is it that they're scared of the danger of these medicines that, or like they don't even mention the medicine and it's just a talk or a meditation? But the way you're combining the eye gazing plus the self inquiry into the eye gazing, plus the medicine, plus the meditation, plus this beautiful retreat, and I'm sure there's some satsang or talk there. Like it seems
yeah.
all of that together, like you said, like a synthesis, not just one. What do you think, we have a purity problem with this medicine? Like they're just scared. Like you proudly said that the pygmies used it, and we know that even I'm sure you know Brian Maresco's work with the immortality key, that they're swabbing the original bowls that they would drink the Eucharist,
Mhm.
and psilocybin's in there or something's in there. So it's been
Mhm.
around forever, but now we're so, it's like a taboo.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it is changing. I think like
It is.
there is, in psychology world especially, like we've had actually I just had a guy who is a neurologist who is was at the center. He's doing clinical trials for depression on
It's
with
great.
psilocybin,
Yeah.
and it seems like there is, I've seen articles written, in psychology papers. There seems like a new sort of renaissance of the
Right.
psychedelics that is coming from the psychology world, which
Did
is
you hear
exciting.
Sam Harris's journey, his recent journey that he put out? I don't know if you,
No, no, I didn't.
so
Mm.
neuroscientist and now a big skeptic, atheist. His wife, uh, Anika, Anada, I can't remember the name, but some kind of spiritual name. She writes books on meditation for children, and she said you better take 5 grams. So he took the 5 gram heroic dose and reported on it pretty soon after, about a 20-minute video on YouTube. And he actually said, the guy who wrote uh, the book against, I can't remember, the Christian Nation, he was a big, one of the 4 horsemen of atheism with
Mhm.
Hitchens and Dennett. And he said he actually, the medicine let him understand what the Christians were trying to say. You
Mhm.
could see it, the true mysticism underneath
Yeah,
all of that talk.
yeah.
But then he kept saying, and that's, I guess, the ego, he would have this transcendent, amazing experience and then say, but I have to remind myself I'm on drugs, and use the word drug instead of, like you said, entheogen. And
Yeah,
it just sounded so negative,
yeah,
but at
yeah.
least he tried, that like you said, that, and Harvard Divinity School has accepted psilocybin and the entheogens, so that's great. Harvard
Mhm.
Divinity.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at one point on my journey, I was one of those people, I was very into Buddhism, and I had a prejudice against,
Too.
having, it was a big shift for me having teachers who were not human, who were accepting that maybe there could be an intelligence in a plant, or in nature in some way, and that, maybe as a human being we're not, the be all and end all, and it was very humbling. There was a
Yeah.
but there were enough synchronicities happening around these things coming into my life where, at one point I was getting bombarded by synchronicities of these different things. And it was interesting. The first time I came upon Iboga, there was an Iboga provider who came to the center. I got to talk to him, and I decided, okay, he convinced me this is really, something to explore. And the interesting thing was, it was going to be like a few months in the future, but just by making that decision, something in my ego construct dropped. Just the fact that I had made that decision, that openness was there, and I actually had my first connection to the state that Iboga would
Yes,
later connect
that's
with.
great.
When I physically connected to it, I recognized that I had the experience. So you could say, the spirit, or the, whatever that is that I opened myself up to, more of myself, essentially. It was just by that openness and making
Yes,
that decision. So to me, it's really, these things are like permission slips.
yes.
They're like powerful permission slips to drop a certain part of our ego and access these parts of ourself.
I
So
love
we
that you say
don't.
just the intention. Someone here, I was listening, it's where I am is a very spiritual community. And I sit in a bakery called the Third Eye Bakery. So it's very
Oh,
beautiful, and everyone's on the path and everyone's healing. And one lady was telling another lady, you don't have to take, the one had taken many ayahuasca journeys. And this older lady was saying, just have a relationship with the plant. Like at this point, you don't have to, because the one was saying, I don't want to take it again. I want to try to do it without the plant. And this beautiful lady said, just have a relationship with it, just respect it and have a relationship. And it's sort of like what you said, it just does something without even consuming it.
mhm. Yeah, it's very
Symbolic. It's
mysterious.
all symbolic. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very mysterious. And my my first real meditation teacher was a plant. Actually,
That's
I
great.
had I was in Mexico, and staying at this place, and there were these they're like those trumpet tulips. I didn't know
Yes.
what they
They're
were at the
here, I
time.
think.
Now I
I
know
think I've
it's
seen them.
called datura, which and are they?
I think
Yeah,
they're right
and
out my
so
window.
so I was surrounded by these things. Yeah, and my ex-wife brought them in. They smell really nice and everything,
Yeah.
but they refer to them in Mexico as the loco plants. Like they make you crazy and give you crazy dreams and that. So our room was permeated by
Ah,
these plants, and I had it sort of woke me up in the middle of the night, and somehow showed me. It's like I became the datura, and in the middle of the datura was this like unblinking eye, and whatever state of consciousness I was in, it was like it was single pointed, and
ah,
and I and I realized this is meditation. This
yeah,
is actually true unblinking presence, and then it told me its name as well. The name came Datura just out of, and I was like, I never even heard the name, and
that's great.
Googled it, and of course got this image of the plant and everything. So
I
yeah,
love that.
so that was probably my left brain Dan character, really started to get um, shaken up after that experience, because it just sort of opened the door to different possibilities.
What a
Yeah.
journey. That's astonishing.
Mhm.
And what
Yeah.
would you recommend to, like you said earlier, there's so many people that have meditated for 40 years and they just can't get this. What would you recommend, to take the plant medicine that you mentioned, or to maybe come on the retreat? What would you? To a
Yeah,
serious student, what would your recommendation be?
yeah, to someone who, like, for someone who's done a lot of inner work already, but hasn't had the awakening, I would say self-inquiry is the
Yes.
most powerful tool that I know of. Putting yourself in those conditions of no escape, and there's a key realization that, like when we do meditation, in the traditional way, there's usually some doer doing something. Like there's either, a technique or a practice, or there's some meditator there doing something. So the most important thing to get in the self-inquiry is that the mind that's trying to awaken, will never awaken. That
Right.
mind, the Dan character never awakened. I awoke from the Dan character. So the one that's trying to do the technique or trying to do something has to fail, has to give up or let go.
You said that
And
beautifully in the new movie Awaken, the Know Thyself one. Is it Know
mhm,
Thyself
mhm.
or True Self?
Yes.
You
Mhm.
say it beautifully in there, and in the Samadhi films, you always go into that.
Yeah. So the experience of that, everyone who comes to these self-inquiry retreats, they think they're going to do something
Right.
great, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And they fail. They come face to face with this confusion and getting lost, and the person that they think they are, they don't even know who they are. And everyone has to go through this unknowing, which is, it's not comfortable. That's the
Yeah.
key, is we have to be willing, because whatever is between us and that realization, these knots and samskaras, all of that's going to come up if we're really, if there's something alive in us that is drawing us to awakening. So a willingness to just move beyond the comfort zone, and a willingness to not know, I think, are
That's
the
great.
two big things. Yeah.
In my book, I call it the TMF, the tenacious motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
It
that.
just grabs on and
Yeah.
it
Yeah. It's
says, all
like
right, let's do self-inquiry. Let's do it. And it jumps right.
yeah. That, my partner Lila, she at it was neat at one point. Like we got together, and we, in our relationship, she just jumped right in the fire with these retreats and everything. But she hadn't been on the path for very long, and
Ah,
she reached a point where she was like, I'm so done with my samskaras and my suffering, and like, let's just do this. Let's just get it
yes.
done. And it was the tenacious motherfucker
Yeah.
just came online, and she was like, I don't care. I'm not even going to take a washroom break. Let's just keep doing self-inquiry. I don't care if it takes 100 lifetimes, or,
Yes.
like, doesn't matter what the outcome is. I'm just going to do it. Just keep
That's so
going and
beautiful.
going. Yeah, and so it took about, I think, 28 hours, and that was it. The flip happened,
That's not
and
bad. 28 hours.
yeah, yeah, that's what it is. There's something that comes alive, and it's, it's almost this primordial kind of, it's whatever it is in the, in an insect that makes it go, like, if
Yes.
you watch a dragonfly trying to get out of its
Yes.
cocoon, or a spider building a web, they just
A
have this
parasite.
energy.
It's like a
Yeah,
parasite.
and they're just going. There's just this force moving them, and if that comes alive in us, it'll, yeah, that's it. It's like our hair is on fire for
Yes.
awakening.
I
Yeah.
love that. And you're looking for
Hmm.
a lake to put your head in.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just a little speculation. Do you think that I'll try to say what I see and then you can go. Just for 1 minute,
Mhm.
do a little speculation.
Sure.
Maybe there's this one pure imagination beyond space and time, or this one consciousness, formless, and it somehow falls asleep or somehow forgets that what it is, maybe intentionally, maybe not, I don't know. And it gets lost in its own imaginings, and it gets very strong, this that we think that we're just separate and finite, that this illusion of multiplicity, and then the world is so seductive that we grab for things and relationships and money and food and cars and experiences, and maybe at 40, maybe earlier if you're lucky, there's a feeling of, is that all there is? And it just winds down, and you start to, like the prodigal son, make that turn, like your partner did, and she turned and said, all right, let's do this. And every step now is a step back home, and then you can't believe the astonishing truth when you finally see it. Is that close to your vision? And my last part is it like the Course in Miracles, where it's a tiny mad idea, where it's like a mistake? Or I like to see it as more of a divine happening, where it always knows everything's okay, and there's this lost dream, but it's all fine, and all is well no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, the way you describe it is exactly. I think this divine hide and seek. I think there's an
Yes,
incredible intelligence to it. I think there's it's not. I don't see what's happening on the planet as a mistake.
right.
I think it's brilliant if the idea is to have this sense of being a separate sort of autonomous being, this sense that
Yes,
I'm this character. But but if we're just limited to that, then we suffer.
right.
So the next stage is to be the character, to be this separate character, but be connected, to be aware of ourself as all that is simultaneously. To me, that non-dual reality is, like when we have the awakening. So the awakening is what sort of frees us from the illusion that I'm just this limited character. So that sort of greatly lessens the suffering
Yes,
in this life. But then there's this ongoing, like if the energy is free, like I'm not pathologically following the script of that character anymore. That energy comes alive, and there's this development process that happens. So the tree of life, or the chakras, all of this start to come online, and then there's this ever deepening non-dual experience. And my as I evolve on the path, then it's like my baseline of you
yes,
could say astonishment, or
yes.
baseline of non-duality sort of grows, as that self structure is developed, and that tree of life is grown.
That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And samadhi would describe the state in there, in the middle of that, like where you're, as you said, it's realizing the emptiness of the self, but at the same time that there's this process going on of evolving and awakening. How would you
Yeah,
word
so yeah, so for me, like samadhi is both it can be a state and a stage. So the samadhi, like the states are this continuum. So on one end of the continuum, I'm totally identified with my character. The other end of the continuum, I'm in samadhi, and I'm one with everything. And so life is this play, but
yes,
of between these two polarities. um, as when we awaken, we realize that which is aware of this all of these changing states. And the strange sort of paradox is, then the more awake we are, then the more that samadhi state, as the tree of life um, grows, you know, like in the yogic traditions, like the classical enlightenment is when we reach a point where the energy naturally just flows from the root to the crown, you
Right.
know, effortlessly. So we've developed the sort of inner wiring, and there's no more effort to complete a sadhana or to do anything. It's just happening. It's like a riverbed that's been carved out,
Wow.
and the energy just flows naturally. So that would be like a sahaja samadhi, a permanent samadhi, which that's like high level. You know,
Right.
that's like the Buddha. You know, the big guys attain that. You know, that's like a living sort of divine presence, which you know, I'm not there yet. I'm somewhere on that continuum still of growth,
Isn't
but
there a Nirva Kalpa or something, Samadhi? What is, I'm saying it wrong.
yeah. So Nirvikalpa
Nirva.
is to me that is like in terms of the real, like the really beneficial sort of thing that happens in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It's exactly like deep sleep, where you know the mind and body drop off, but there's the true I amness or being. There's a continuity of being, even though there's no mind or body there. So there's this strange, you know, dropping off of mind and body, but yet there's a somethingness
Yeah.
there, or it's not a thing,
Right.
there's a sense that I didn't disappear. Like when we go into deep sleep, there's this sense that I've disappeared and I come back. Whereas
Right.
in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's exactly the same. There's no phenomena, but there's a clear continuity of beingness there, and it's that continuity, that beingness, which is that's the ground of
Yeah.
existence. That's the true self that doesn't come and go. So
Right.
so it's so that samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, is when someone has that, it just becomes very clear what it is that is not of the phenomenal world, even though it's impossible to say what that is,
Right.
but it's you know, and I wouldn't even say it's an experience. It's just
Yeah.
it's something like the byproduct of a lot of meditation usually, or a byproduct of a lot of self-inquiry, is like that you know, sometimes it's called turiya as well in the
Yes.
Vedanta, where
Is that
you know the
moksha too? Moksha? Same
it
thing.
depends on the teacher. It depends who you're talking about. But so to me, that you know, that is the real
Yeah.
recognition of the truth of what we are. It's whatever it is that is present in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and doesn't change. You know,
Yes.
that's it. And then you know the states, the samadhi states. You know, the samadhi state is important because that's where that recognition is most likely to happen. That's all.
Now, if
Yeah.
someone's watching right now and they've read all the books and they've tried to meditate and they're hearing this and they say, I know Daniel is speaking the truth and I know it's true, but I can't get there. Do you say to them, it's okay, just hold off, it's okay, everything, you'll get there, it's okay. And what do you say?
Yeah, you know, it's such a paradox because you know, awakening is when we get to a point where you know this conditioned mind is chronically dissatisfied with what
Right.
is. You know,
Like
so
your
if we
partner at that moment where she said, I'm tired,
yeah
I'm ready, let's go, let's surrender, I give up. Do they have to
yeah
get to a give up? They have to give up?
that's it. Like all these practices and techniques and things we do, entheogens, you know, it's like we're stirring the pot, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like all the stuff is bubbling up
I
and you
love
know
that.
being purified. Yeah, but you know, but at a certain point, like none of it needs to happen, you know, because it's all ultimately it's the conditioned character doing something that
Right.
it thinks it needs to do.
Get
So
out of the way.
so yeah, so this is the paradox, like so, for me it was helpful to put myself in these crazy situations like at a Zen center where, I'm just locked into this ridiculous situation where it's like, okay, I guess my either I have to get the hell out of there or something's got to give,
Right.
and something did give. Like my teacher that I worked with, he said, the Dan character is actually kind of weak,
Ah,
and that's my strength,
oh,
is
that's great.
yeah, which when he first said it, I didn't understand it. I understand it now, but the more you can actually just die, on
Yeah.
whether it's on the cushion or in a whatever
In nature,
practice you're
nature,
doing.
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah, just that controller and doer, that pathological part of us that it's like it's trying to achieve something in the future,
Yeah.
whatever that, that's the danger talking about these things that we're talking about right now, because people hear it and they go, oh, I want to achieve that. I want to
Achieve,
make that
non-achievement.
happen. Yeah, and it's there's no achieving, it's that one that is dissatisfied with this moment has to let go. And so really the whole path is just being okay with what is. It's just not believing the thoughts being generated by that mind that wants to achieve something in the future. And
So
the more we
relax. You would tell them relax and
just,
all is
yeah,
well.
just be, yeah, all is
Just
well.
be.
Yeah, yeah, don't worry, be happy. Yeah.
And most religions talk about when you let go of everything. Like I left my job, my car, I just left everything and came here. But most people can't do that. But uh at some point they all taught, Jesus spoke about the lily and the bird, and you'll be clothed and you'll be fed. Don't worry about. So supply like is a big. Now I only understood supply for the first time on the medicine as I reached that height of total dissolving, and I understood, oh my God, I am my own supply. I am my supply. How do do you think that's a law? Like if you let go, because even letting go, if you choose to let go, I remember my teacher saying, if you're choosing to let go, that's still the ego. It has to fall away on its own, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you speak
Yeah,
on that?
yeah, I think there's different levels of that abundance that
Yes.
we realize. So like I'll give a few examples because I think that what this is it's a very important question
Yes.
for people, because a lot of people have this idea that I'll just give up everything, life will be all fine, God will, and then they don't pay
Doesn't
their
work.
taxes,
Yeah.
then
Yes.
they end up it's a train wreck, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so
And
yeah,
some
so
teachers encourage it and they say, yeah, do it. Just keep praying to Jesus or something, and they're like,
yeah,
yeah, but I'm broke now. I have a baby. I have no
yeah,
job. I have no car. And the
no,
teacher
it's
keeps saying, pray to Jesus. And it's not.
yeah, no, it's so I'll give a few two examples. So the one example of that abundance is just on an energetic level, where I realized, like actually through darkness meditation,
Yeah.
there, we literally can be supported by prana or by energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's I realized, like when the inner mechanism comes online, the need for food, the need for anything, um, even the feeling of happiness, joy, and it's not contingent on anything external ultimately. So that's like that's the ultimate
Yes.
truth, is that truly, if our peace and happiness is contingent on anything in objective reality, then we're somehow caught in Maya. So
Right.
so that's the high level truth. But there's also like a relative truth that the world, like the matrix, is as it is. So in Buddhism they say the world of samsara and the world of nirvana are one and the same. So nothing changes upon awakening. There's still the same politicians and the
Yeah.
same. I still have to pay taxes.
Right.
But the resistance to what is what falls away. The resistance to what is what creates the suffering and the identification.
Right.
So it's not about changing external reality or denying any aspect of what is in the game. Like the game is the game. It's like a video game. Like
Right.
like maybe there are people who have learned, like Donald Hoffman, and
Yeah.
talks about conscious agents, and we can learn to reprogram the game. So that's one one approach.
Right.
But for most people, the game is the game, and it's not about what you have in the game or what your material possessions. It's your attachment to those things.
Yes.
It's your identification with those things. So whether you have money, you don't have money, it can be a problem either way.
Right.
If there's a sense of identity or attachment wrapped up in those things. So the problem in the world is, it's like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So before enlightenment, you make money, pay taxes,
Right.
raise your kids, do whatever. Nothing has to change, but it's your sense of I that is no longer struggling and wrapped up in that, the ups and downs of life. We just, it's more like a play. We're
Right.
playing this
Divine
character.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you see like a teacher who says that supply that saved their lives, and it's a very high up teacher, and supply, and they just let go, and everything, a plane ticket arrived in their hand, and they flew to India, and this happened and that. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, they had to go to the dentist for a tooth or something with their ear. There wasn't supply there. That's where it gets a little tricky. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
protect you from everything, right? I don't know.
Yeah, my feeling, is like whatever's happening, I like the more I further I go on my path, it does seem I'm sort of in awe of how it works,
Astonishment.
and
Astonishment.
yeah, astonishment. And but at the same time, I never feel that I'm beyond anything.
Right.
Like there's something can come, and maybe I get sick, I get some crazy thing happening, but then I realize, oh, actually that's perfect. That's slowing me down. It's interrupting my whatever pattern was in
Right.
play, or so I yeah, I feel there's a poetry to all of it. I feel there's an intelligence to all of it, and sometimes we get things that from the little self. It's like it's like, no, I'm beyond that.
Yeah.
But
I don't take
actually
the
no.
garbage out. I don't need to go to the dent, all these different things.
Yeah, like I think we get tested more, like the high level masters, like Jesus, they
Yes.
crucified the guy, like like that's the ultimate
Right.
test,
Right.
so he wasn't just having this peaceful blissful ride. Like he got like nailed, like literally. So it's
I like
so
you talk about Jesus in the Samadhi movie about not my will, but thy will be done. I think you meant, I remember something where you said something about like a higher Will, can you talk about for just a minute, um, clarifying for some Christians or atheists that don't, they take the story the wrong way, you know, as a man, you know, a more mystical vision of what that signifies, the cross and the resurrection.
Mhm. Yeah, to me, I actually sometimes in the meditation retreats, I like the conditions of no escape are really what it
Yes.
represents.
Ah,
To
I love
me, that's what it is. So,
that.
I sometimes refer to meditation as self-crucifixion.
Ah,
It's like you're literally, putting the ego in this state where and in progressively more challenging situations. So if you can truly just allow that total surrender, and
not my will.
yeah, not my will. Like in meditation, we come up face to face with this constant craving and aversion. The little self always wants to get away from pain and
Right,
find pleasure. So we surrender completely. We give up that constant seeking of pleasure and avoiding pain, and just allow the energy to build, and the aliveness to build, and that's it. And so we become kind of like an antenna then to connect to higher levels of self, and sometimes it's literally like an intelligence, or a dharma download. We get these insights that when we connect to the source, it'll inform us in some way, and where
right.
we need to go.
That's
And
why it's beautiful in the story that Jesus says, why have you forsaken me? That made it through time, you know, and to us, that there was even a little doubt at that highest moment, and then the realization, let go, total surrender.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and to me,
And then
the Jesus character, had to, like, when they say he died for our sins, to me, the esoteric meaning is, the Jesus character, just like, or the James character, the Dan character, it's like that. If we want to awaken to the true self, the Christ consciousness, which is the one consciousness, then that little character has to
has to
die.
die. Yes.
Yeah, it has to, surrender. It never really dies, but
No.
it goes into the back seat. It's not the
Right.
driver of the vehicle anymore. So yeah, so to me, that's the
That's
esoteric
perfect.
meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
And that's the
lamb.
resurrection, because it doesn't
Yeah,
die. It's a mistaken identity that you were the driver. Really, you're in the trunk, maybe with a gag around your mouth or something, or in the back seat. And the
yeah.
driver, the car is just like a self-driving car. That's fine. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
And
okay.
and and that whole, dying for sins, to me the sins are the samskaras, right? It's
Yes.
like in order to awaken that Christ consciousness, there's a death of the character, the Jesus character, and the purification of the samskaras, or
Wait, can you define samskara for someone that might not know?
yeah, so that those are the conditioned patterns that make up the egoic self. So whatever lives in the unconscious. So it's the unsatisfactoriness, the pattern of craving and aversion, that
Right.
always going for pleasure. So it's like this, almost like a reptilian kind of
Yes.
pleasure principle. Like the serpent
Right.
is a perfect analogy. So
It is perfect.
the raising of the serpent, just as Moses raised the serpent in the desert, so the Son of Man must raise the serpent. So it's like the purification of the samskaras is the freeing energy from that reptilian brainstem, that it's been sublimated to all these different things in our life now, like going after money and pleasure, relationships, all of that. It's woven into this kind of primordial craving and aversion.
Right.
Yeah.
So why do you think you have Rupert Spira in the new movie, in the Awake
Mhm.
movie? Why do you think
Mhm.
Rupert okay, forget Rupert for 1 second. Do you think that Rupert's idea of the space, the non-conceptual space, or samadhi, or the advanced state, or the non-dual state, whatever word you want to put on it, do you think that that is the same as when you are on the medicine and you hit that state? Because some people think that that's a synthetic state, sort of, not, it's that purity problem again, that, oh, I sat for 800 hours on a mountain, so that's how I got it, but it's like a cheating state on the medicine maybe. And I
Mhm.
remember Rupert answering that it's it took forever for him to finally say that it's just about the same awareness, but he kind of gave the nod to the non-medicine awareness over the medicine awareness.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I had Martin Ball on last week,
Mhm.
and Martin Ball was like the authority on 5-MeO and all that. He
Mhm.
said, not only is it the same space, but it's even better on the medicine. And that maybe some of the teachers are forgetting just a tiny bit, because they just they earned it in a different way, or they got there in a different way. But on the 5-MeO, it's such a powerful um experience that maybe they forget a little bit, and they downplay how astonishing, how jaw
Yeah.
dropping, how drop to the floor and kiss the ground this is.
Yeah. 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 That's a great. I think it's an important thing to explore. So to me, like what Rupert really is, he's the
I
direct
love
direct.
Rupert.
He's yeah. I love Rupert. I mean,
Yeah, he's
he's
like goes
been
right to it,
yeah,
but
and
a problem with the medicine.
yeah, to me, there's the like when Rupert speaks, it's like he's saying the same thing as Krishnamurti, or
Yes,
it's like if we can just be here now, unfiltered, unmediated by the conditioned self, then everything is perfect as it is. It's like there's an inherent bliss and peace to the most mundane things, just this
right.
moment, whatever is here now. It's the perfection
It's
of that moment
amazing.
when we've dropped off that conditioned mind. But the interesting thing, and I see this in a microcosm in our retreats all the time, because people will have awakenings, they'll realize who they are, they're just present. So they're having direct experiences. So they'll see a tree for the first time, and it's like,
Right.
oh my God, I've never seen a tree. Or this person's eyes are just like, infinite universes, and so there's this beauty. But then, as we go along in the retreat, we're using the plant medicines. We do 5-MeO at the end
Oh,
of the retreat as well. So then it becomes the 5-MeO experience is like the ultimate awe of
yes,
just, you're blown wide open. You're like completely blown wide open. So there, there's, I think there's like this sort of natural state where we're not filtering or mediating our life through the senses. I think that's what the direct path is, that sort of stabilized peace where we can realize how the mind sort of mediates, and learn to drop that mind. And I think that is liberation. That's
yes.
really liberation. But then there's all this crazy unfoldment this never-ending kind of non-dual experience that can there's just no end to it. And that's the plant medicine and these different things offer just this deepening and multifaceted, multi-dimensional experience of life and in all of its capacity. So to me, the direct path it's a gateway, into this deeper experience within, all of this phenomena is just, it's like levels of the game in the matrix. And,
Right.
it's all just phenomena. Ultimately, any experience is temporary, but I think we're here to just bring it all on, and just have the full tour. And the way we do that is to not be attached, to know who we are, know who is having these experiences. And to me, that's the most important thing, is to know that we are this awareness that is having this blown wide open experience.
I remember that was beautiful, in philosophy of mind, which was my big focus as an atheist skeptic in school. Philosophy of mind just excited me the most, because I knew something was happening with consciousness, but I thought it all died with the death of the brain. And so it was all philosophy of mind and personal identity. When the professors, that was a big topic in philosophy of mind. That was such a big, Derek Parfit and all these different, Douglas Hofstadter, Daniel Dennett, they all had these views. We didn't go into the Eastern, though, really, in school. It's more Western views, but David Hume was in there, and all different visions. And when I saw it in meditation, it was just personal identity is just mistaken identity. It was so clear that we identify with the person. It's so funny how simple it is.
Yeah,
But it's
that's
so
that's when people have the Kensho awakening,
yes.
that's often the thing that comes out of their mouth is,
It's right here.
that's stupid. That's so
That's so
stupid.
stupid. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Like I think my what came out of the Dan character's mouth was that's retarded. Like that's it.
Yes.
That's what all this is about. Like,
Right.
and because there's literally nothing for the mind to do. It's only when the mind is not looking that we recognize, oh, it's me. It's always been, I've always been here, but I've thought I
All the
was
time.
this
Yeah.
character in the mind. And it's insane that we, like all these books and teachings and sutras and pointings, and it's so simple that there's actually nothing to it. Ultimately, so much of this is just taking us further astray. And
I
the
love
more we
reading the biggest books on consciousness. They had to be this big, not this big. This like big, big. And I had
yes,
no idea. And I would say, I don't have a soul. And I'd be so proud to say that there is no soul. It's just a pattern on the brain, and come up with
yeah,
all sorts of clever ways of saying the materialist view. And then
yeah,
when I saw it, it was like a sock. When in the morning, when you have a sock and then it's inside out. So you have to put your arm in it and pull it. The whole thing turned inside out. And I was like,
mhm,
oh my God. The brain is in the
yeah,
soul. The brain is in consciousness, not consciousness is in the brain. The brain
yeah.
just is a metaphor for it, or a picture of it, or whatever. I don't know the right word,
Mm.
but
Yeah, yeah, like
consciousness is
almost,
fundamental, primal. It's always here. And all
yeah,
the physicists said it, from Oppenheimer and Heisenberg and Schrodinger. And they were right in my
yeah.
face, but you don't know until you know.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and that's amazing when you can directly experience that. And
Yes.
I I love when atheists come to the
Yes.
they do an iboga flood dose, and they go in with one set of beliefs and come out with a completely different set of
It's so
beliefs.
beautiful, right?
Yeah, oh, it's profound. Yeah.
I remember
Yeah,
an
it's
atheist in Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. He was talking about some study at Columbia or somewhere, and I think her name was Dinah, and she was an atheist, and she went into this study with the psilocybin, and she came out and said, "I have to say it. I'm sorry. I'm an atheist, but I was just bathed in God. I was in a bath in God, or bathed as God. Was in the bathwater, and she had to say God
yeah,
or whatever word.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes people, in the 5-MeO experience,
Oh,
sometimes people come back and they're it's like a reverence, it's like they're praying,
yes,
and it's just like it takes you to your knees, it's
yes,
like it is that ultimate awe. And to me, that's, it's not the real deal unless you're on your knees, it's,
yes, yes.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Mm.
And so, um, like in the Course of Miracles, have you read that book?
A while ago, yeah, yeah, and I connected with Bill Free as well. He was the one. Actually, he was sort of the one who really the Awakening Mind was sort of his vision of
Oh, that's
to
great.
do the film. So he's the Course in Miracles guy. So
Yeah,
yeah. So I've not read the whole book, but I've been sort of absorbing some
it's
of
a
it.
pretty
Yeah.
sharp sword or
Mhm.
it's a really sharp sword.
Mhm.
I had David Hopmeister on, and I couldn't come up with the right word, but he said it's uncompromising, and that's
Yeah.
the word. You can't get away with anything with that book, but the ego hates it and pushes it away. Or I threw the book away. I kicked it across the room. I would cross out the word God and write source. I couldn't read the word Jesus. I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
you
I've been there
realize,
too.
yeah. So an
Yeah, I
atheist is just, can we define an atheist as, I mean, a fundamentalist Christian is lost because they're taking it too literally, and an atheist is also taking it too literally, but thinking that they're not taking it too literally,
mhm. Yeah,
right?
I was at one point, like I did the Catholic thing growing up, and
Me too.
and that didn't work for me, and then yeah, the atheism for me was, this sort of left brain scientific,
Yes.
weaponizing of
Yes.
philosophy and all of these things, and it was like a backlash against the Christian beliefs that
Yes.
I knew it was false. So I wasn't
Right.
wrong about that, but also it was still the mind. It was still,
Yeah.
the conditioned mind, the ego wanting to be right. And in my
Yes.
case, it was wanting to prove to my parents
I
that
love
I was
that.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So but then the true experiences is there when we can drop that ego and directly, have something deeper.
I remember as an atheist reading the meme, you could be right or you could be happy. And just mocking that and hating it, and with my
Yeah,
atheist shirt on or my atheist hat on.
yeah, yeah,
And then once you realize this, it's like you were blocking yourself. It seems like it's just one big eclipse of the true self, and atheism is a really strong, I mean, it's so close because it's not a separate God. They're right as far as there isn't a God outside of you up in the sky, throwing lightning bolts at people. And,
yeah.
you know,
Of course. Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
right there, which is good.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah. I think the idea, like, to me, I loved some of the people like Einstein when he would
yeah,
talk about God.
so
My
beautiful.
sense of God is related to my sense of wonder about the
Yes.
universe. Or
Mystery, mystery.
yeah, yeah, or Joseph Campbell, that my
Oh,
it's like my idea of God is connected to the transcendent,
yes.
so so those were stepping stones for me to look deeper, and yeah, both of them were part of my path,
Joseph Campbell. made me finally, there was like a little click where when he talked about Narcissus and then he would talk about Jesus and he'd say, take the same, like, you don't, he might not have said exactly this, but he made me realize I don't deny Narcissus existed. I know it's a template or an archetype, it's a map, it's a myth, it's a, and then, but yet I denied Jesus instead of seeing Jesus the same way as Narcissus or Sisyphus or, and
Yeah, that's
realizing that,
beautiful.
yeah, what a
Yeah,
day that was when you
yeah,
when you
yeah,
see
I
that.
love that. Yeah, yeah, that's true. We see, we see the intelligence of these
Oh,
archetypes and things, and yeah, and it's only when we believe it, is a literal story that we run into
yes.
problems. And yeah,
You see, it's actually woven into the whole consciousness dream, or I don't know how to word it, but it's woven in there. And the more you move towards that light, the more it unfolds and opens, and it's dawning on you the truth. And it's so
yeah,
beautiful. And you just, once you get, like you were saying earlier, once you get a taste of that, you don't want to go back to uh the old life, once, like on one of your retreats
yeah,
on day one, you start to taste something that on day two you're not going to go back to who you used to be. You just start
yeah.
to let go.
Yeah, yeah, these different archetypes and dimensions are of the whole divine template. They're what allow for the richness of the whole human experience. And yeah,
Yes.
it's yeah, I think opening ourselves to that is so important. So if we're, if an atheist is denying that entire sort of possibility and that entire unfolding, then life just is reduced to the mental and physical, which is
Which could be exciting for a little, like I found excitement in where stardust, and we were baked inside of stars,
mhm,
and that was exciting for a while, the Carl Sagan,
mm,
Neil deGrasse
yeah,
Tyson vision. But when you see the true vision, that all of that is made of consciousness, it's so
yeah,
much. It's exactly when, like Richard Dawkins would say, how infantile religion, dualistic religion is compared to scientific truth. And he'd say, this is so much better and so much grander. But then when you realize mystical truth, or this ineffable truth of samadhi, it's so much grander than anything science, I mean, materialist science can come up with.
mhm. Yeah, and it's beautiful now, like with scientists like Donald Hoffman now. He's like
Yes.
the whole thing is coming full circle now with his idea of conscious agents being sort of the
Yes.
primary rather than atoms and these physical things that are existing in time and space. He has this
These
idea
little
of,
heart things, these little
yeah,
balls.
so he's literally bridging, creating a whole mathematical physics framework for conscious agents, and so I love it because it's very non-dual in the sense that
Yes.
it's not, we're not negating. It's not about, something new and then we're negating all the old science, but it's integral, and it transcends and includes what's come before. But it's
Yes.
it's opening us up as the investigators, the ones who are engaging in the experiment. We're changing ourselves in order to do we are the experiment, and opening us up to these different possibilities of interfacing with conscious agents, which are, to me, that's, the archetypes, all these different,
Yes.
whether we call them, angelic beings or the netters from the, Egyptian, all these different names. But, he just uses more scientific
Right.
language. But to me, that it's exciting that those bridges are now actually becoming real, or
Yes.
real in the sense of the.
Like, what was it? Max Planck said, science will advance one funeral at a time. So it seems like as the old materialist view dies out, this new Bernardo Kastrup and Donald Hoffman and these other scientists will take over maybe, or, educate the younger people.
Yeah.
A whole
Yeah.
new
It's really
paradigm.
neat. Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I
We
ask you
have
before we go, only if you want, your mystical vision of the Trinity?
of the Trinity. Wow. That's, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not like, because there are people who are listening maybe and they reject an idea of Jesus or God as some kind of man that a hippie on a cross kind of vision. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if you can redefine it
Yeah.
like in your own vision.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so, yeah. So the Trinity, maybe there's different sort of entry points into that.
Any way you
But
want.
yeah, so maybe, to me, the three sort of, simultaneous
Right,
levels of being are, like there's, the Father, you could say, is like
right,
um, you know, the primordial awareness. To me, it's that which is, the ground of being. So that which, the Turiya Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that which
yeah,
remains, there's no thingness to it. Um, and then, the Holy Spirit is like, the sort of the bridge between, that, pure consciousness and the worldly. So the
right.
Holy Spirit is like, the alive energy, or, the divine feminine, I guess, like
I like
the love light energy, that is, you have the masculine, and the feminine, the Shiva and Shakti,
yes,
and so that, so the marriage of those two is the birth of the logos, the one
right,
mind, which is, the Christ, or the if the human potential that is in all of us is to become that one mind through the unique expression of, this vessel, basically. So to me, that's the Trinity, or, it's the marriage of those two, is, this potential for something that is neither. It's totally new, and that's what we are. That's our potential as
yes.
human beings. Yeah.
That's what I love. I'm sure you've seen I think it's Rublev's painting of the Trinity. And at the bottom on the table where you see the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit, there's like a rip and a little square like at the bottom, and they're all pointing at a bowl on the table. And there's
Mm.
this, and they say that that's where there was a mirror on the painting. And so that where, as you're looking at it, you're part of the whole, but
Ah,
someone ripped the
beautiful.
mirror off. It's very beautiful. And you could see the rip,
Beautiful.
the
Ah,
square where it was.
wow. Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
We feel like we're not included, but it's all.
yeah, no, that gives me shivers. I never came across that, but that's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
I'll send you the picture.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful
Beautiful.
from the
Yeah.
1500s, I think. And I love
Amazing.
how one of my favorite parts of your samadhi, I think it's the first movie, is when you talk about Shakti and Shiva and that whole dynamic between. So beautiful. And it's great how you
Mm.
see the Trinity in Hinduism, in all the major religions. It's all there. Different, the names change, but it's that same law, that cosmic law that works.
Yeah, that perennial teaching. It seems to
Yes,
be just what comes back over and over. Yeah.
yes. So
Hmm.
beautiful, Daniel, to have you on. And I think everything you said it will help someone who's struggling on the path. And I'll put links to your retreats. They're still happening right now.
They are.
Oh,
Yes.
that's great.
Hmm.
And I'll put
Hmm.
links to all the movies. They were so important in my awakening. And look forward to the next part of Samadhi. I can't believe there's a part 4. And the awaken to your true self, that'll have more parts also, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the next one actually, Bernardo Castro
Oh,
is
that's
going to
great.
be in it. And yeah, we've got a whole group of really amazing teachers in the next
Hoffman, is
one.
Hoffman coming in?
I'm not sure if
Part
he
3.
is in the second part, but we're probably going to we're probably going to do a deep dive at some point just on the science stuff. Like we could do probably 3 episodes just on him, you know, just on
Yes.
what he's got going on. But I'm not sure. Yeah, but the next one is it's called Living Presence, so it's going to be more just living life and you know, sort of a practical, you know, how to live life
Kind of
from
integrate it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah, more integration, and yeah.
Turn from the desert.
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, it
nice
was a
meeting you.
pleasure. Yeah, it was amazing. Amazing how time went by. I just
Yeah,
realized we've been going for an hour and a half. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
almost 2 hours. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you maybe after the next movie.
Awesome. Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.